Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Zach from Z.M.S.C Model Works, and today we're going to be doing our first sort of product review on this special kit here. Now, I will go ahead and say first and foremost that this was purchased with my own money. I was not paid or incentivized to say anything about this whatsoever, so this is completely my own opinion. It doesn't reflect the opinions of who I bought it from and the company themselves. I really kind of picked this kit out because I have a couple of little goodies in the pipeline for some really cool MiG-21s. Now I've kind of got a little bit of a MiG-21 fetish all the way from F-13 types to similarly the J-7, the Chengdu J-7 that the Chinese copied, all the way up to, I believe, in my opinion, is the penultimate MiG-21, which is the LanceR conversion. You can see it says LanceR, but it's kind of Lance and then a capital R, which I think are the coolest MiGs around, the MiG-21s, because essentially what they are is the base M and MF models of MiG-21 that Romania bought from the Soviet Union, and because of a shortage of fighters in the interim, they had bought MiG-23s and MiG-29s after these. However, when they tried to update and upgrade the MiG-23s and the MiG-29s, everything from budgets to fell through to part supply was not as what it used to be. So they essentially scrapped the rest of the fleet and kept the MiG-21s because there were so many MiG-21s produced. Chinese parts were always in abundance and available. From what people say, some of the Chinese parts were actually an improvement on a lot of the original design of the MiG-21 by the Russians. So what they did was they essentially went around to several different companies and had them design upgrades to the MiG-21. Most notably, an Israeli company that designed the radar and interfaced it with some of the cockpit systems. Rafael, that makes the lightning pod. So yes, the MiG-21 can carry laser-guided munitions. It can fire NATO weapons, mainly the Python 3 and the R550 Magic infrared missile, as well as carry a Rafael Lightning targeting pod. So we'll go ahead into this kit now. So this is Icaerodesign's. Believe they're a company based in the Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia. Not 100% sure on that accuracy, so I apologize if I messed that up. So basically what we have here is a conversion set for Eduard's MiG-21 M and MF kit. Now I'm not 100% sure on all the little discrepancies, but the main one is the dorsal spine in between the rear of the cockpit and the horizontal stabilizer, the tail fin. So that shape kind of moved around in between the F-13 up until the main body of the MiGs, up until where it hit the BIS, which had an enlarged dorsal spine for electronics and fuel. So this one's designed to be for the M and MF kit. So we open it up here, and we'll put the goodies off to the side for a bit. We'll have a look at the instructions. So there you go. There's Icaerodesign and their website here that you can check out. So basically, this is everything that the kit includes, besides with the resin parts here. So we've got some photo etch for antennas, some bits here for the HUD, because this does have a HUD similar to the F-16. I can't remember the exact name of the manufacturer, but basically this it operates as a NATO fighter because it integrates with a lot of NATO systems, but it's a Russian body, which is pretty cool. That's kind of what gets me irking about this particular conversion for the MiG-21. We've got some printed paper with our instruments here because it has MFD displays, 2 of them. A lot of the gauge cluster was redesigned. We're also going to have some transparent film for the HUD that will go in between the holders here. We have our decals right here. So we've got the Romanian Air Force symbol. We've got the 2 squadrons that it comes with, and the Bort numbers, as well as we have a vinyl mask. So rather than dealing with the whole trouble of decals and decal solutions and trying to get them to fit into every nook and cranny, we can come in with the masking set, and we can actually just spray over the colors. So if we want to fade out some of the writing, let's say it's chipped off, or some of the emblem of the roundels are faded, we can do that all with this. Now, as well, I've been looking at my references, and I don't think any of these aircraft I can find are super heavily weathered. So whether I'll do a kind of representation of what they might look like, or what I might do is find a picture of a different Bort and then just mix and match the stencils here to match that particular aircraft. Now down here at the bottom, we've got our resin parts. So we've got our sidewalls. We've also got the floor pan, our main instrument cover. We got our instrument panel, and then we've also got the seat backing for the fuselage. We've got our 2 flare dispensing pods that are, I believe these are permanently mounted on the LanceR version. So we've got also another dorsal kind of guy here. That's probably for more electronics. Now I know what these guys are, and these are systems for the improved radar warning receiver. So these get bounced all over the aircraft on the nose and on the tail for the new RWR. Then we've also got this pipe here. Now sources are kind of fuzzy on what it exactly does, but I'm assuming due to the new radar and the need for more cooling, there's a reservoir tank or a system inside the farther back in the fuselage that helps cool the radar. Originally, the Sapphire radar that was in the BIS and then some of the upgraded MiG-21s was actually cooled by alcohol. So you had about 7 minutes of active radar only. So you were limited to how much radar you actually use. Whereas now, with the upgrades, it can use it unlimited. And the nice thing about this is it's all printed in color, so it kind of makes things a little bit easier rather than trying to pick out black and white. Sometimes the quality isn't the greatest, but these guys are really nice because they are printed in color in a very nice register. So part 1 kind of details how you're putting the front dash together with the photo etch for the HUD glass, and then how it all should look together. And it kind of gives color callouts for some of the buttons and the warning lights, which are up on the upper left of the fuselage. And then we come down here into the actual instrument display panel. So we've got our paper backing that goes on top of the resin instrument display panel, and then again color callouts for those, and you can see the MFDs on here as well. Those are quite nice. And then we have kind of a skip, I'd say, in how everything is kind of painted, but everything is called out on the back here. So essentially what you would be wanting to do is build all of the instrument display panels and the interior cockpit up first, and then glue it together. So basically, once you've done that, you can go and start putting the assembly steps. So we've got our sidewalls here that are going into, are attaching to the floor, as well as the instrument display panel and the instrument panel cover over top with the HUD. And then you're attaching the back to these pieces as well. And then voila, you have cockpit. Simple enough. In practice, we'll see how well this actually kind of goes together, because it is a resin conversion kit, and I have not dealt with this company. So we've got our original Eduard plastic part here that's telling us to cut quite a large portion of this off, so we're putting a lot of heavy faith in making sure this is fit properly, and it's attaching it to the front of our resin cockpit replacement, and then fitting it into the fuselage. So, and there you go, we've got our color callouts here. A lot of dark greens, mattes, almost like red oxide reds, yellows, oranges, all that stuff, and that gives you all the callouts for the top of the instrument, the left and right consoles, and the side panels as well. Now moving on to with the exterior bits here. So again, you can see the sensors that we were seeing earlier for the RWRs. Those are getting mounted on the dorsal fin. And these are these are black and white, but they're quite highly detailed, as I can see. It gives a clear indication of the part and where it goes, and a clear indication of how it should look when it's finished. So a lot of those parts underneath the chin of the aircraft. We've also got some vents and bulges going on. So there's the supposed cooling line, some grills, and then that one kind of sensor right at the front here. And it's basically a blow up of the entire outline of the aircraft. So we've got our new pieces going on, our ventral fins for the navigation system, because this works on a VOR ILS system now that can integrate with TAC and a lot of the NATO stuff, rather than the Russian navigation equipment. So again, here shows the dispenser pod for chaff and flare, our antennas, and everything else. So that's nice, and it gives us both sides as well, because each side is slightly different. So with these, we can kind of approximate or measure and transfer on, so we can get these placed accurately. So there's some more here, and some more reference pictures, as well as how everything should look and fit and finish. Now, moving on, once that's all finished, then we have our instruction sheet for how the decals are applied. So whether you use the decals or the masking, gives you an indication of where those are, and the color callouts for how these Romanian MiG-21 should be painted. So I've got the single-seater version. As well, I have a MiG-21 M, or the Mongol, as it was called, the two-seat variant of the MiG-21. And Romania operates both of these, both types, in a LanceR conversion. So we're going to do both, and we're going to possibly do this one with the LanceR C, which is the strictly air-to-air version. There was the LanceR A, which is a single-seat ground attack, and then the LanceR B, which was the twin-seat variant of this. So I've actually got two conversion sets for the MiG-21 in 1/48 scale. So I'm going to plan on doing both in Romanian colors. And, let me get our color callouts here. So I'm looking at these. I've got some idea of what these colors might actually be. For instance, the blue underside here, it's very similar to X14, which is sky blue. We're probably going to do some variations of this when we do our black basing on it. We'll show you how that all works. But this almost looks like it's a, in the photos at least, this looks like it's a neutral gray. So it's not quite as dark, but we might adjust the shades in a little bit of a variance. And then we also have a light gray here. So I don't think it's actually I don't think it's actually the XF19, which kind of has almost like a reddish yellow tint to it. It's not completely true gray, it's quite warm. These ones are quite cold, so I might go with something like you know, an RAF medium C gray 2 XF83. We might do that, or we might do a variance of, you know, whichever ones tickles our fancy at the time, just to get those colors going. And then we've got you know, some metal on the tailpipe as well. So there's your review of the instruction sheet. So now we'll get into the meat of her, and we'll start looking at the parts. So we'll kind of start off with, first off here is our vinyl sheet with all of our masks. So you can see some of the masks have pulled away, and that's just an issue with vinyl in general, is if you cut it, it'll kind of shrink back from itself. But this one doesn't have too much shrinking, especially on the numbers here. So those are all nice. It's just on the main kind of cutout for the roundels. So just a really nice cut, no jaggedness, no nothing. Yeah, and those look really nice, so gonna definitely be using those compared to the decals. Now if you are kind of familiar with Decals and you want to go ahead and use them, that's okay. The set provides for it here. And quite nice register as well, just looking at these from a distance. So decal film is quite thin on these, so it probably wouldn't be far off from going ahead and painting it, but we do want to add some chipping to the numbers here and to the roundels, make them a little bit faded. But they're all a nice register, all nice vibrant colors, especially on these guys here, which are the squadron logos. Those are all quite nicely detailed and registered as well as the flowers. That's really, really nice for something that small in 1/48. Yeah, so those are all really nice. It's not giving us who printed these, but you know, judging by the paper and the thin decal film, I'm not going to say no to it being from special Italian manufacturer, but you know, they might have gone ahead and printed these themselves. A lot of the Czech companies are coming out with some really nice decals now for some models, so I'm not going to say it might be them, but they might have gone ahead and done it themselves. Who knows? A little bit more research and we might find that out. So coming into our little parts here. So this is our instrument display panel, and that's printed on just standard paper, so you'll be cutting that out along the border and then gluing it to the back of the instrument display panel. So all of those dials are very nice and crisp. They're not super detailed, but for 1/48 in such a clustered cockpit, those would not look out of place. And even on the top guy here, there's the red flags for the gyroscope for the ball shown out, saying that it's not active, so we can actually show this being powered down. What we're actually going to be doing is a little bit different. We're going to be putting a pilot in it, but because these guys use NATO equipment, they're going to have NATO pilots. And not only that, but because these actually use a heads-up display, this was actually the first aircraft to be converted to a NATO heads-up display unit coming from Russia. So we're going to be doing some pilots with their helmet-mounted units on there. So we've got our what looks like our MFDs. These little squares here. These look like our MFD panels, and they're in a slight, almost like a green tinge, but it might just be the black, kind of similar to NATO black. But then we've got our HUD glass here. That's very nice. That's nice and crisp and sharp, so it'll give us a good kind of line to cut on when we do cut these out. And then we've also got our photo etch piece here, which has a little detail on this side. So we've got some bracing here. We've got our antennas, and then we've also got the HUD glass mounts here as well. And we've got this nice vent here, so that's very, very nice. Nice thin photo etch too, so those details are going to look super sharp. Alright, now we've looked at that. Now this is kind of cute. This is almost wrapped in what looks like, just regular Kleenex or tissue paper, whatever you want to call it. For our resin bits, come in this one bag. Unfortunately, it's not individually wrapped. So you want to make sure that everything that comes out of the bag goes back in, because you might never know if these are actually part of something more important. That one piece is stuck. Hold it out. There we go. Okay, so that looks like it's part of, the IP cover here. Maybe that way. Yeah, looks like it's part of the IP cover. So come a little bit closer there. So there's our IP. So we've got some instrument clusters here. We've got some warning lights, and then the main upfront controller here that would be entering in air-to-air or ground mode and nav points and that sort of thing. And then we've got our nice kind of glass here for the HUD as well, and that's a really nice detail part. That looks nice. And what we got next? Oh, look at some of the blisters. So it looks like that one blister on the right wing, or starboard, whatever you want to call it. So there's that nice blister there. That looks like it's going to fit really nice. It's a really nice sharp flat edge with a slight curve to it with the dihedral, the wing. So we got that. And then we've got this guy here, which is that, what I'm assuming is that cooling pipe. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but there is some tiny little holes in there, which looks like they're vents to help cool whatever, if it's liquid or the heat sink running to the radar. But that's a nice register there. And then we've got some more we've got a larger, I believe that's the VOR ILS, possibly the TACAN antenna that goes on the chin of the 21, and then looks like the beacon on the top of the tail here. Those are really nice. I got some shmoo in there, which is going to be cleaned up eventually, but we'll get to that at a later date. And we've got our RWR sensors here. And there's no seam line running along the edge here, which is nice because that would be a pain to get rid of. But those are all nicely captured in detail. And then here we have our flare dispenser pods. So we've got these smaller guys here, which are the flares, and then we've got these guys here, which are the chaff. So we've got a lot more flares than we do chaff here. So those are all nice. Those will take some cleanup, but they should fit just fine on that side. And we might be adding some more detail to that, either with the panel lines here, which are not quite visible on this one, and some of the riveting detail that we've seen. But again, we can tackle that when we get to it. So move on now here to the, looks like the floor, yeah. So we've got our floor panel here, where our IP is going to kind of mount to, and then the stick as well. Along in here, some nice detail running in the bottom. That's nice and flat and super flush. So I don't think we would have to worry too much about fitting it to the other kit part. But anyways, so there you go for that one. And now moving along to the goodies, we've got quite a very thin but nicely cast instrument display panel. Now the pain in the ass here is going to be cutting out all of these instrument dials, because there is no decal sheet for the instruments. It's all on the paper. So drilling these out, it's going to be a pain, especially near these thinner sections here. That's almost frighteningly close to the edge of the part, and in some quite, not so structurally sound areas of the panel. I would have liked for this to be a tad thicker than, a blonde one, but the sacrifices we make for detail. We've got our MFDs here. Now it feels like, running it along the edge here, it feels like there's some buttons to it, but it's very, very faint. So that's going to be painted on. That's not going to show up too much in the actual detail. So we'll just come in with a fine tip brush or a toothpick and just kind of dab them on. So that looks very nice. And then we've got our seat backing here, so that's where the ejection seat will run onto. There is a slight curve to that, but it should get fixed later on. Some nice piping and wiring detail going on back here. A lot of that's going to be hidden by the seat, so we don't really have to worry about scratch building that. We'll probably try and replicate this on the twin-seater, because we only have a front seat. There's no two-seat kit of this. There's only the one LanceR C, the air-to-air version. So we'll try and recapture as much of that detail as we can, but we don't know. So that's nice. And finally, we come to the side panels here. So this is our right instrument horizontal panel. So we've got some nice ribbing going on down here. And then we've got our warning lights here. And then we believe the radios, navigation equipment here. And then we move on to all the circuit breakers in the back. And then on top, we've got the rest of the instruments, mainly along here. These were all fuel pumps and generator switches for the main batteries and the AC and the DC generators and converters. And then the fuel pump switches, and then some emergency overrides for navigation or the flight instruments. So that's really nice. That's really thin, so I'm hoping that's going to be a drop fit, not cause too many issues with the cockpit kind of bulging out. So hopefully that looks very nicely sanded down. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that fits and we don't have to really modify any of this in order for it to fit. If anything, we'll try and space out the fuselage when we clamp it together. And then we've also got the left-hand side console. So there's all of these are all the emergency systems and environmental controls. And then with the upgrade to the LanceR, the MiG-21 actually got a HOTAS upgrade. So there wasn't the need to, flip 5 different switches to get one function to work. So they've represented the new throttle grip here, the HOTAS version, which is nice. And then there's the landing gear panel and the canopy latch as well. And then it's got the same nice ribbing detail down on the side. Now I don't see, and I checked on the sheet, and there is no control stick. So the main grip that you would use in the HOTAS system. So what we might do is make a copy of the F-16 grip because it looks quite similar to what the MiG-21 uses. We'll probably kind of copy one maybe from the Tamiya kit that we have, and then throw that in just to add a little bit of a little pop to kind of make it as realistic as we can. But that is about it for the Icaerodesign MiG-21 LanceR conversion set. So we're going to have a build coming up with this in the near future. So if you want to see how this kit actually goes together, be sure to subscribe and wait for that video to come out. It should be coming in fairly soon, but we'll see what time tells. And thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.